Hand claps for Roger Federer. Hand claps have to start the video like that. Congratulations. I love it. I love it. My videos sound repetitive. Like they have the word congratulations in them, and awesome and magnificent and all these great things, which is just indicative of the type of job that you're doing, Roger Federer. Grabbing the number 3 spot, the number 3 ranked ATP World Tour ranking back. That's really great news. Being so close to the number 2 ranking is sick. I cannot tell you, Roger Federer, like how excited I am that you are like so close to the number 2 ranking. And I understand that it's like so close but so far, and I understand that it's really important to take everything match by match. But if you are simply continuing in the style that you've been operating in this season, like taking Dubai, taking Indian Wells, like if you take Miami right now, I mean, you'll have the number 2 spot in the world. And what is that saying for you at 30 years old? Like, what type of story are you writing in this tennis history? What are you contributing to this world? It's really exciting to see all of these possibilities just come about. So yeah, I love it. I mean, I'm totally always rooting for you all the way. So, I mean, if you take that number 2 spot, that's great. I only got to see, out of Indian Wells, I only got to see one match with you and Rafa, and it was great. Your backhands looked excellent. I don't know if that has to do with climate or surfaces and all of that talk of indoor, outdoor climate, faster surface, slower surface. I have no idea about that stuff. So I'm just going to say, in general, your backhand looked amazing. I don't know if it was due to anything other than you just practicing or whatever. I don't know if climate had anything to do with it, but it looked so good. I'm so proud of you. The ball was traveling fast, was making rather than giving other players just time to sort of stay on their feet. It was like, your backhand was traveling fast, so people had, there are times that Rafa has to scramble, actually, to actually return your backhand. So that's great. That'll help crumble some level of psychological confidence on his part, as far as just always serving to your backhand, hitting to your backhand as part of his game, and other players as well. You know, I think some important things to bring up as well for me is that, I always talk about these unforced errors, and I totally get why earlier in 2011, early in the year or in the middle of the year, you said, I really, unforced errors are just, I don't pay attention to them. And I think in my other videos I've talked about that as well, like how I think that, especially at this point in your career, you have a lot of new people coming in, and you have a lot of, like people like Isner, who are much younger players, and who are now getting to actually play against you and get a feel of what works when playing against you and what doesn't work when playing against you. That just even this micro analyzing, I guess, that I'm suggesting, I think is just now more important than ever. Like, just for example, we could look at unforced errors against Rafa. You had 25 unforced errors, and Rafa had 13. And, I guess if I were a coach, I would just be looking at, well, no, I'm not even going to pretend to be a coach. I'm just going to pretend to be who I am now and just analyze it like that. Just say, I'm looking at his 13, and I'm going, why did Rafa have only 13 unforced errors? If you look at the stats, you could see, like, your ability, obviously, in the stats in that match. You could, just one person on paper could see that the ability that you have, both are generally the same. Like, you had, well, you have more, obviously, more winners than him. You had, but your first percentage serve, I think, and your other ratios. Anyway, there were things that just made me look at the ratios were the same. I'm sorry, the ratios were the same in a lot of areas. So the ability is pretty much, equal to a certain extent. Of course, I think you're a better player. I think Rafa's ridiculously good, and I think he's only been able to get really, really good because of you in a lot of ways, in his own right, his own determination. But I think he's been able to move his game into something that's a little more closer to the level of tennis that you've played earlier on in your career. Um, that a lot of that is also due to you. But anyway, so I'm looking at Rafa's errors, unforced errors 13, and I'm like, what happened? What could happen that besides double faults, which both of you had two, and besides lets and other things like that, and then the just obvious unforced errors that are just truly unforced errors. What can you pull out of that data to just see why did he only have 13 errors and you had 25? And I do know that there were, again, there were double faults and there were a few things in the second set, some mishits. But are there any trends? Like, is he making balls harder to sort of discern, and I don't even think maybe that's not even a relevant question for you because I just think you have such a high level of ability, but I just maybe that example I gave isn't good, but I think it's really good to just look at what worked for Rafa. Like, how could you get his unforced errors to be 25 instead of 13? Because I do believe that to some extent that unforced errors are due to the positioning of the ball, even though they seem unforced. I think that they are subtly forced errors, especially, and this is probably debatable, but I think especially when you're dealing with players on such the highest levels of tennis like you guys are, that unforced errors aren't exactly 100% unforced. I think that they are maneuvered and manipulated, so that certain errors could be made. So I would be looking at what worked as far as having Rafa have 13 unforced errors, but what didn't work, and what worked for Rafa, on legitimate plays where you could have 25 forced errors and have more errors than him and still pull out a win. And then I'm looking at also too in the first set, you were up 3-0, and I think just analyzing that, how was Rafa able to come up from a donut or a bagel or whatever and go to 3 games? Like, how was he able to pull those 3 games off of you in order to just pull back a little bit? Like, what happened? And then, watching the match, of course, it doesn't look like, oh my gosh, Roger's making so many errors and mistakes. It wasn't that at all. Obviously, it was such a freaking great match. I mean, he looked so amazing. But I think it's really interesting just to, as we go on into Roland Garros, as we go on into Wimbledon, especially, that you keep in mind as well that Rafa, in the back of his mind, knows that his back's up against the wall. Like, you're only, I think you're under 1,000 points behind him. So you're actually in the race. If you two were in a race, you'd be breathing down his neck. So you have to know that Rafa's like really pushed up against the wall, and he's going to do whatever he needs to do in order to win. He's going to play very aggressively, and he's only going to get more desperate. He's only going to raise his game higher as you continue to win. And I think the turning point will be what your performance will be at Miami. If you finish higher than Rafa at Miami, then I think you could pretty much expect, like if I were your coach, expect that it's going to be on. That's how we say it sometimes in America. It's on. Just expect that that's going to be like his mentality. And I think one of the differences too with Rafa is he doesn't when he needs to, he gets really, really aggressive, and sometimes it seems like he's trying to like, uh, well, I don't want to say like pushing you around, but um, his level of aggressiveness just seems to get um, high, you know, and you could see like looking in the second set of that match in Indian Wells, you could see that he really started getting aggressive, and just see the difference. Like, I don't know how to explain it. It's not saying that you're weak. This is not a comment on anything lacking within you, but it's just a comment on just sort of looking at different possibilities and seeing what might work against him and what might not work, and what you could make not work for him, like things that he tries, what you can make not work against you, so that you can retain your points and retain and gain. So yeah, but the second set, Rafa gets really like aggressive, and I think a really good point is for me to bring up how Djokovic plays. Like Djokovic, for really lack of better word, he can be ruthless. Like he will hit that ball wherever you aren't. And I don't know that I'm really conveying this clearly enough, but I just think, look at the second set and look at how aggressive like Rafa started getting, and where can you get aggressive, and how would you be like mentally with that, getting more aggressive and offensive. That's what I mean, like being even more offensive than you are now. And it's not, again, this is not a comment saying that you're a weak player, because this is not, this is just a really micro point. How would you feel playing that way? Because a lot of people love that. You know, you see a lot of people on YouTube say, I would love Roger to get more aggressive. Like, you're a wonderful gentleman on the court. And you don't want to be pushed around, too, either. I have to say, like, I've seen you, like, really even tell some people. But, well, just one person, just that one person at U.S. Open that year. But I'm just saying, like, it's not a comment that you're a pushover or anything like that. But how much more offensive can you get, and how comfortable in your heart and mind could you adjust yourself so that you can overtake the aggressiveness of others, without, you know, while still staying true to yourself. So finally, I think I wanted to say that yeah, I mean, it's fantastic what you've been doing. It looks like you're working and pulling. It's amazing what's going on. What you're able to do at your age. Like, you just, you know, you're almost at number two, and I love it. It's gonna be so awesome. Like, if you get number two, it will be great. And number two in the world ranking. It would be great. Of course, winning is even better. But you know, it's just a wonderful story what you're writing right now, what you're doing. So congratulations again, and congratulations to Team Federer as well. Awesome job. Yeah, please, you know, just take a look at that. Also, as well, I would suggest in these last moments of my video, I'm talking 13 minutes. That you know, second set you got a little, it seemed like you got a little nervous, like and made some errors. It looked like it was due to nerves, and nerves are totally everything that you've been through with Rafa and everything, you know. It's totally natural. But I would just suggest, like, really evaluating like what your belief system is, like what's coming up for you in your mind and your heart, like when you have like a nervous point. Like, what are your beliefs about Nadal as well, you know? And it's funny because the commentators brought up you were at a 6-3, 3-1, and you were actually up and just poised to actually break Nadal. But actually it was like all of a sudden he was like vamos, and then you started, like, it seemed like there were errors, and then you couldn't convert, like you couldn't break him. So it was noted that there was some some psychological warfare going there. And this, as we're going on, as Rafa is going to get, you're getting closer to Rafa number two, it's important to just look at the psychological aspects, like build yourself up psychologically. And you know, it's not that you aren't, though. My God, you won this. It was a great match. So I'm gonna end this video before it cuts me off. But oh my God, Roger Federer, just keep up the good work. Talk to you soon. Bye.